implement for us what that happened at Uganda Road Court?
You see,
really mean?
there is nothing new which is happening, but what it's a continuation of the persecution of dissenting voices in the legal profession. This persecution has taken some time. You remember, Canary, I'm a victim of this persecution. I served 18-month imprisonment at Upper Prison. Why? Because just like Ssemakadde, one day came, a judge sits in my absence. My lawyer says the man should be here. He says no. Since he's not here, he should be arrested and imprisoned for 18 months. Now, of course, that was odd, because a warrant of arrest normally says arrest him and produce him before the court. That's what normally happens worldwide. You arrest a person and produce him before the court. So the court decides whether someone should go to prison or not. So now that was done to Ssemakadde recently by Judge Sekana. He sat somewhere and said he should be imprisoned for 2 years. Now it seems the Sekana method was not working. Now they are utilizing the Kaizi path. The Kaizi path is that you have a criminal offense, a very weak. Canada, if I would, if the listeners would understand this offense, because Kaizi is charging Ssemakadde of insulting the modesty of a woman, according to section 115(3) of the Penal Code Act. Now, this section says that any person who intending to insult the modesty of any woman or girl utters any word, makes any sound or gesture, or exhibits any object, intending that the word or sound shall be heard, or that the gesture object shall be seen by that woman or girl, or intrudes upon the privacy of that woman or girl, commits a misdemeanor and is liable on conviction to imprisonment of a term of 1 year. Now, we have a very petty offense. Petty offense. When a criminal says 1 year, you can even be sentenced to community service. You can even be sentenced to 1 month. Remember, this is lower than the second 2 years. But what's the point? Of course, we shall later, as it has been argued by many people, that this section is unconstitutional. You can see how wide it is. The Constitutional Court has, in most cases, for example, in Charles Onyango Balandru Mwenda, it held that that section, section 50, was too much wide. So this thing is unconstitutional, but even be that is it. It is too wide. Now, when you say that someone talked about a public officer called DPP, a woman who is holding a public office, so it's like, they don't want anybody to be talked about, but the purpose is persecution. When Ssemakadde defeated them in the election, they know they cannot win him, so they are using all these tricks. So why was I saying that there's nothing new? Because internationally, you can extradite a person from where he is to bring him back, purportedly. In some instances, sometimes it's genuine. For example, if someone raped a woman, or if someone committed an offense and ran away, you can bring him back. But this method Kaizi is using of international warrant of arrest is not known in law. International, it's not known in law. There's nothing like international warrant of arrest. That's why you are saying that he's admitting it. Yeah. What applies is we call it extradition.
But he actually does clarify and say that it does not exist in Uganda's legal framework.
So why is he applying it?
However, he goes on to issue a warrant of arrest that is enforceable internationally once it is served and processed through Interpol. So what is the difference? So does
Kaizi has international jurisdiction? Of course, no. Kaizi's jurisdiction actually stops not even in Uganda, in Kampala Central. Because when you go to Machinje, there is another chief magistrate. When you go elsewhere, there is another chief magistrate. You get the point. So he has no jurisdiction, primarily. You cannot say, I'm issuing an international warrant. There's nothing. But they think that they can abuse the Interpol, because the Interpol is a criminal association of police internationally, that when you want a fugitive, you need him. Now, what does Extradition Act do worldwide? Because extradition laws are similar. You don't need a warrant of arrest internationally. You just inform your fellow policemen that here in Germany or in UK, there is a man whom we suspect raped a woman in Kampala and ran away, murdered someone and ran away. So when the police is satisfied that actually there is information which is clear, they go, they apprehend him, they take him to a court in that country. Then they start what we call extradition proceedings. But again, these extradition laws are very clear. For example, when you look at the Ugandan one, under I think section 3, it has restrictions. You don't just apply it. It says you don't surrender a fugitive if the offense in respect of which you or side has demanded is one of a political character. That is the first part, is one of a political character. But then they say, or if it appears to a court or the minister that the requisition for his or her surrender has in fact made with a view to try to punish him or her for an offense of a political character. So, in a court sitting worldwide, we understand that Ssemakadde's purported witch hunt, because they want to facilitate this, is the purpose is to punish him for an offense of political character. Because
how do you determine an offense of a political character? Isn't that vague?
The facts, no, it's not vague. The fact, that's why they, first of all, they say is one of a political character. There are some offenses like treason. When they say someone wanted to take over government, like assuming Besigye was being wanted from Kenya, and they said this man wanted to overthrow Ugandan government, the Kenyan courts will not have surrendered him. That's why they did what they did. So that's clear. But there are other situations where a government may hide under another offense, which on face of it does not seem to be political, to get a person to bring him back to punish him. So who is Ssemakadde? Ssemakadde is the president of Uganda Law Society. Ssemakadde is a former lawyer, is a former legal secretary of the FDC party before it was disorganized by these Mafali. Ssemakadde, mostly, of course there could be some other issues, but his opposition is anti-regime. Now when you get an anti-regime president of law society and you say you want to bring him back, why? Because he talked about a DPP. He talked about a government. What was he talking about a DPP? That the DPP acted illegally in sanctioning a file of 36 FDC people who were picked from Kisumu back to what? To Kampala. Now, that same person has another order of imprisonment of 2 years. Why? That he defied the authorities in Kampala. That he talked ill about a judge in Kampala. Clearly, that's a case of that's the message that the view is to try to punish him for an offense of a political character.
Aren't you trying hard to justify this political character issue?
No.
Just because he's a former secretary of the FDC, but whatever he has been involved in has nothing to do, for example, with FDC and it's anti-government sentiments.
Where did he utter these alleged words, according to the charge sheet? It was at Katonga. At Katonga, I had an opposition function. People were at Katonga celebrating return of 36 political prisoners who had been picked from Kisumu direct to Uganda without due process of the law.
But he acted as ULS president, not as former secretary legal for.
He was invited there as
ULS president.
No. Canary, if I have a background with you as a journalist, if I invite you to my wedding, of course I'm inviting you as a person I know as a journalist. Although you may come there and speak as a friend, that doesn't matter. Ssemakadde went to Katonga because he knows these people. And moreover, what were they celebrating? They were celebrating victory over political witch hunt, where you charge people with terrorism because they were in Kisumu. So this is political actually. This is a political witch hunt. And political doesn't only stop with the executive. And who is the DPP? DPP is part of the executive. She's the arresting officer. She's the prosecuting officer. So if I come and say this DPP is incompetent, this DPP is what and what, and then you say, hey, she's a woman, you are abusing the modesty of a woman, we are charging you. With the executive. And who is the DPP? DPP is part of the executive. She's the arresting officer. She's the prosecuting officer. So if I come and say this DPP is incompetent, this DPP is what and what, and then you say, hey, she's a woman, you are abusing the modesty of a woman, we are charging you. So after charging me, you say now I cannot see you. You must be arrested for abusing the modesty. I don't think this should be an offense where a warrant should be issued actually. Because if someone doesn't appear, what did Abodo lose even if those things were said of her? We should concentrate on serious crimes. People are beaten. Just here I was saying that you people were beaten by whoever, Ssemakadde, whatever. Instead of concentrating on serious things, I've not seen any letter by Abodo instructing police to investigate. But that's our mandate under the Constitution, Article 120. So instead of concentrating on those, they are concentrating on it because it works for them politically. Secondly, how does a person become a president ULS? It is through a political process. Campaign, be elected. We campaigned day and night for Ssemakadde, and we won the election. Now, these people we won are now using tactics to say that this man does not serve, or they make him a convict, and they're already disorganizing him. That's why he's not here. Yes.
So, when I also look at some of the issues surrounding this issue, let me bring up, for example, the Interpol itself. How does it operate? And how you say that there is no jurisdiction as the chief magistrate?
I said
the chief magistrate does not have jurisdiction, even just beyond Kampala.
Yes. I just said that Interpol is a loose. What is it? A loose coalition. A loose coalition of police officers, of national police forces.
Let's just even say that it's accepted. What the warrant virus is accepted by Interpol. Does Interpol or can Interpol enforce arrest warrants for offences such as Ssemakadde is accused of? An offence of insulting the modesty of a woman.
The problem, maybe we can say, can a person be extradited for an offence for insulting the modesty of a woman? Plainly, if it was a plain case without any political connotation, the answer is yes. When you look at the schedule, I think is it the third schedule to the Extradition Act? There's only one schedule actually.
When
Yes.
you look at Acoli, the Interpol rules on the processing of data sets, it sets out the specific conditions on the publication of red notices. So what I'm asking is that, do you think that the insulting of the modesty of a woman would be an offense that have a red notice on Ssemakadde?
What I'm telling you, one, Interpol is a police force. I mean, is a police organ. How do police organs do? They investigate. After investigation, then they see that there's enough evidence. Then we should look for a person. The challenge they are facing here and why they are meandering around, this case against Ssemakadde was not initiated by police. It was not investigated by police. This is a letter by Byamazima Joshua and Tumukunde Tony saying that we are here, we want to charge Ssemakadde. No investigation has been conducted. Now, if Ssemakadde is outside, the applicable law, which I'm telling you, is the Extradition Act. So the right question kind of would be, can Ssemakadde be extradited over the offense? The answer plainly is yes, if there was no political connotation. But looking at how extradition laws operate and the circumstances under which Ssemakadde finds himself, I don't think a serious court can allow him, because Interpol cannot arrest you and bring you straight here. No. They must go through extradition, because you cannot make someone cross the border without a court order. They must go through the extradition process. So all this thing of Interpol is just, I think it's just a cloud. Just to.
You think it's, so for what reason would they then go to Interpol?
Because they want to ease the work of the police. Maybe they want the people, the Nangas sitting at Interpol Kololo to get a form of communication with their counterparts, because naturally there is nothing to communicate about. There is no investigation, because those regulations, they indicate how you are going to investigate, at what level are you, have charges been sanctioned. You get the point. Now, here you don't have any file to investigate. So you just need to create something that actually there is a court order. Then maybe it can be easy to contact a police officer where Ssemakadde is and say, please, IGP, can you help us? We have this one. Then they hunt him down.
Okay. Joshua has been listening in, and Joshua, I would like you to respond to some of these things that Councillor Mabirizi has put forward. Your 2 cents on what the Chief Magistrate, Ronald Kaizi, did today. I'm saying that Councillor Mabirizi has just elaborated on why this might not actually work and that this is political witch hunt. My question to you is your 2 cents on, because you've been listening in, on what Councillor Mabirizi has said.
Thank you so much. Firstly, I never thought I would be on a debate with Mabirizi, but nonetheless,
why is that? Why is that?
And I know he knows the law in and out. But I think what we need to clarify, comrade, is that I do not, as an individual, know where the political connotation is in this matter. I think where we need to start is, had Ssemakadde not said what he said, would we be in court in the first place? And maybe I see that Mabirizi is trying to oversimplify the issue by simply saying that Mabirizi, that Ssemakadde is in court because he said that DPP sanctioned files of the FTC people wrongly. That is not an issue in court. And Mabirizi well knows that we are in court because his friend said that the Director of Public Prosecution is something from Karamoja, a word that I cannot personally say. So I think Mabirizi is being dishonest of himself by simply oversimplifying the matter. So whether he calls it a case, it is a penal case. It is within our laws. He can present us a constitutional petition that has nullified it. But as long as it has never been nullified, it is a law. And I do not think that Mabirizi stands in the almighty position of deciding what is a case and what is a case. That cannot be his position to state. And then I've heard Mabirizi say the man won an election, that is why he's being prosecuted. Ssemakadde is not the first president of the Uganda Law Society. Could we ask how many presidents of the Uganda Law Society have been prosecuted the same way Ssemakadde has been prosecuted? Is Mabirizi worried to talk about the bad behaviors of his friend? Why does he lack the consistency? He should be as consistent as he has been for the last few days. But now I don't know. I think the friendship is growing back. Now he feels his friend is being persecuted.
Okay. Do you want to talk? Do you want to talk about jurisdiction?
Yes, I'm going on to jurisdiction. You see, Canary, Mr. Mabirizi created a very good precedent in Mabirizi, Uganda, Mabirizi private prosecution versus the Honorable Norbert Mao. He's aware before Justice Gardenia. We extracted Mabirizi's case and used it as a masterpiece for our matter. We followed exactly the instruction that was given to Mabirizi and followed it all the way through into getting that complaint registered and summoned signed. Now, the question, the response that Mabirizi should also give you, what happens in the scenario where summons have been issued to a person and the person jumps jurisdiction of court and hides away, goes on a run? Should the matter fail because the person is away? The jurisdiction of the Chief Magistrate Court, this is a criminal matter. You must appear wherever you